A straight line is a missed opportunity. Is that true? We'll find out. Stick around. All right, welcome back to the shop here in beautiful downtown Canterbury. I just found out the camera lady loves when I say that. Anyway, thank you for stopping by. It is a wonderful night to be in the shop, and I'm kind of excited. I'm going to talk about making things with curves. That's one of my stronger interests. I mean, why settle for a straight front of a table when you could have a curved front like this? Now, why would you even want to do that? Well, after all, the earth is flat. You're like,
I'm convinced.
But when you think about nature in general, I mean, there are very few straight lines, right? I mean, even the straightest trees, they have little bends to them. And when you really look at things closely, they're not straight. Like, what is the straightest line in nature? I mean, maybe a flat plane on a perfectly still morning of a lake, you know, just perfectly glass, or the horizon and beyond. But even that has a subtle curve. Anyway, what I want
We're with you. We're with you.
I'm going down a road here. Anyway, let's talk furniture now. I just want to show you a couple pieces over here that started out very simply. And if you've been looking at some of our courses, I try to always start with the straight line because it's more fundamental, it's easier. You have a strong point of reference with straight, square surfaces to learn and understand joinery better. So one of the earliest projects we've had is this shaker end table with a drawer. We had some other ones without drawers actually just before this, because adding the drawer added some complexity. This one I got, it's been bleached out. I got it from another family member, and I got to refinish the top. But anyway, you can see very straight lines, but it's got a quiet elegance to it, like the shakers do. I mean, there's a lot of integrity in the joinery. It's all true mortise and tenon and twin tenons and dovetails all around. It's just a wonderful piece to start out and enjoy making furniture. But after a while, you start to go, that feels kind of rigid. I want a little more life to my furniture work. And so you start thinking, how can I make it more organic, more lifelike? And you might get to the point where you're making something like this. Now this is another class. This is the bow front end table. It's really just a close cousin to the old shaker end table with a drawer, except it's got lots of curves. It's really the same. It's got almost the same height, almost the same size, and a drawer comes out the front. So this could easily be used as a bedside table. However, this one is using a lot of curved surfaces, so it has a much more organic, natural appearance. This is actually the bow front end table masterclass version. Some of you may not have seen this yet, but the other one has more of a sunburst pattern. This has this fan drop here. And I was showing this when we were in Saratoga Springs recently. We actually I did a presentation on shellac. So it was all about, this was just freshly shellacked. And I still haven't gotten to the point where I rubbed out this half, and this half has not yet been rubbed out. But it's just so beautiful, that finish. You probably can't pick it up on the camera, can you?
Not really, no.
No? Can you see the sheen?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Nice color coming through. Mm-hmm. But anyway, this was a lot of fun to make. If either of these projects interest you, you can check them out on epicwoodworking.com. You can take a look. You might be interested in making one. But the thing I wanted to show you about this is that saying that I start out with, a straight line is a missed opportunity, was a favorite of Jere Osgood, who was really very significant person in the studio furniture movement in the mid 20th century. He taught at Boston University, and many really great makers that you know today went through that program and studied with him. So Timothy Philbrick, Garrett Hack, David Lamb. I know there's, how many others can I think of? But anyway, this has lots of curved surfaces, no straight lines really, other than the drawer sides and under there. And then even the surfaces are pillowed slightly. So that really added a vitality, a kind of more organic, free-feeling form. So when you see a table like that, it's way more visually interesting. You may really prefer the shaker for its disciplined stance, right? I don't know how to describe it, but I like to see a little more organic life in it. Now, here's an sort of like a hall table that could be made this way with a straight front, or you could put a bow front on it. And that's all we did on this table. This was a course I did some years ago, probably 15, 20. We haven't done it for quite a while, but I just called it a bow front hall table or something. Look at the cobwebs under that one. But very similar to the hall table and the end table without a drawer. So a lot like that, except for that curve in the front. So it just creates a nicer space to walk around and walk by. It has a nice elegant curve to it. And these tapered legs are beautiful, and they add a little more, it adds a little more complexity to this joinery, and also carrying that angle of the curve on the face of this leg. This leg has to start out thicker in order to accommodate that curve so that the side doesn't end up looking so skinny. You want the profile of this leg, after that facet comes in, to be roughly the same as the back leg. And so to do that, the front leg starts out heavier. So this is a nice project, and I want to show you making a curve like that. But before we get into that, a couple other things. This is the actual extension of this table. So similar to the shaker end table with a drawer, and then the bow front with more curves, we have a much stronger curve on this demi-lune, this elliptical demi-lune that we just finished recently in another course. And this one has a very strong curve with kind of elegant shaker-like legs, but with a subtle French curve and a solid laminated rail under there. Many of you have seen that, but I'm just enjoying having it around and getting ready to finish another one. Yeah, we've got several around. I want to show you a few photos. Here's a chest of drawers that I made. This was actually the first, I think, bow front piece I ever made, and it was a bow front chest of drawers in mahogany. And this was down at Pug's shop. And you can see right above my head, see that bugler pattern? That's actually like a pattern for making this folk art. For a little period of time, Pug got into, my mentor down there in North Carolina, got into folk art, and just as a little side thing, I don't know why, he just appreciated all kinds of fine woodworking. So I wanted to show you this. This is a pretty dynamic bow front desk. That's actually 5.5 feet long, I think. So it's pretty good size. It's hard to tell how big it is there. For all you could know, it's a tall coffee table, right? But it actually is quite a large desk, and the front is bowed, and that was a really enjoyable process. But that's probably the highest style dynamic bow front I get into, except for some other chests. But let's look at the next one. And this was probably the most recent, the last time I made a bow front chest of drawers, and this is with our dentist at his lakefront home. I delivered it to him in trade for some dental work. We got a lot of dental work for that chest, but we no longer trade for dental work. And that's made of flame birch. I just love that, the way that looked in the end. It was such a satisfying piece. But the way that sat in the room, you'd walk in kind of from the direction the photo is taken, and you'd walk around through to the bathroom on the right, beyond the chest, and just having that curve offered sort of this soft flow that you wouldn't get if you had a straight looking front. It added almost an architectural element of interest to the room where you had these flat walls. So you can kind of introduce your own creative architectural feature in a room by adding a bow front curve to a piece of furniture you're making. Then the next one. And this is the straight hall table that we made previously. Very similar in dimension to the table I just showed you. And we're gonna now get into this with a bow front on the front. Check out the bugler. Pug gave me that as a gift. And I treasure it. Spread the good news, he's saying, right above the clamps.
Yeah, above the clamps.
Good to have little things that bring joy in your shop, right?
Yeah.
Like memories
And
like
memories,
that.
exactly.
All right, so how do you make a bow front like that? Well, there's a number of ways, but probably the best, the easiest modern way is using lamination approach. So by layering it and gluing the layers around the curved form you want. So what we've got actually over here is the curved form. So you can see it. I'm not going to get into how I built that here, but this has the inside curve of that small table I just showed you with that curved form. So that's what we're going to bend our parts over. And the laminations could actually be made out of solid wood like this. We could do the whole thing out of, say, cherry like this. In fact, when we did the demi-lune lamination, that's all solid wood, as I just showed you. But here, I'm going to use some modern core materials. So we're actually going to use 5 layers for this lamination. All right, so altogether the 5 layers are only going to add up to just over 7/8 of an inch. So it's going to consist of the center layer being a 1/8 inch piece of Italian bending ply, right? So this is kind of a central rib, and then sandwiching that on each side, we have 3/8 inch more standard wacky wood or bending plywood, you call it either. So those are just ripped easily. And this stuff is super bendable in one direction, but not the other, because all the grain is running in this direction on both sides. All of it, except for this little membrane of wood actually where the wood is going the other way. You just have this one little center thick piece of veneer in there, and that's what gives it the flexibility. It wants to almost break. But it's a lot cheaper to build up your core using wacky wood or bending ply like that than running it all with solid layers, because it takes time to process, and you got to get the hardwood softer to make that bend, where the wacky wood is very agreeable. That's what we like, very agreeable. Right?
I think so.
All right, so what we're going to do is glue it up. Let's glue one up and put it over the form so you can see the whole process and how quick and easy it is. I mean, once you get your form, it's quick and easy. I haven't done this for a while, so I hope I don't screw it up. Actually, let me set that aside.
Well, we just finished a lot of them on the demi-loom.
Well, that was different, yeah. So, by the way, stick around to the end because we got a special giveaway. I meant to say that at the beginning, but we got a special giveaway and opportunity for you to win something tonight. So I love doing that, and I hope you'll win. And also, you know what I noticed? I went on about, when you do a YouTube channel like this, you have this page you can go to where you can see the analytics of what's going on. And we have we have really faithful followers and a great community, and we love seeing that. But I realized, just saw the other day, that almost 2/3, 65% are not subscribers to the YouTube channel. So if you're watching, you haven't subscribed, and you would consider doing that, it would really help the channel. So thanks for being here. All right, let's get back to it. We are now going to laminate and actually add glue to this whole mix. So you want to create this sandwich where you have an inner solid wood and an outer solid wood. Now the outer solid wood, you're going to pick your prime piece. And I actually resawed a beautiful quarter sawn piece to make this this face. And I used the same piece, I actually laminated it on the sides to get a beautiful continuous look around. You don't always have to do that, but then on the inside, I wasn't as fussy. This is a kind of a very flat sawn. You might prefer that on the front. Doesn't matter, whatever you prefer. And then I have my organized stack. Now, when I go onto the form, I'm going to put it on the form with my outside face up, so I get my bow. And then on top of that, I'm going to put a thin piece of 1/8 inch masonite as a caul to just help to even out the pressure on the wood itself. All right. So normally you'd like to wax the caul. I'm probably not gonna be messy with this, but you should probably wax it so you don't glue it to your piece. This is actually about 3/8 inch wider than it needs to be, so I'll be able to rip it off if I have to. All right, so I'm gonna set my caul over here, and then let's just set our pieces where we're gonna put glue. So I'm gonna put glue here, here, then I'm gonna go on both sides of everything. So I'll go here, here, I'll flip, and I'll just keep going. Let's see.
Did you say, Tom, how thick those are?
Actually, I'm not gonna need to go, I don't think I need to go both sides. This stuff is so porous though, I think I'll put it thin on thin and just go both sides. What was that?
How thick each of these are? Did you say that?
Yeah, this is an 1/8 inch, the center. This is considered 3/8, but it measures a little less, like closer to 5/16. So, and then, so I've got those two, and then my outer face pieces are almost 3/32. So altogether, it measures 7/8. So that's as thick as I wanted it. My sides and back rail are also 7/8. All right, so here we go. I've got to get my roller ready. Okay. I'm going to just go in sequence like this. Okay, so the roller, someone taught me this trick where you wrap this is my roller, my glue tray or paintings tray, which I'm going to use glue, and you just put it in a bag. All right. Camera lady taught me this.
Someone taught you that.
I was just joking. You wondered if I was going to get to it, right?
No, I don't need any credit.
No. All right.
It actually wasn't my idea, so
No, but it was clever.
just passed it on.
Yeah. So it just helps to clean out the tray and get the glue. You'll see in a second. But I'm going to use Unibond 1. It's a hard setting glue, meaning when it dries, it's crispy, it snaps, rather than is real flexible. Like some other glues, flexible would be Type Bond 3, a good exterior glue for that very reason. And then Type Bond Extend is not made to be outside, but it gives you a longer open time to work with, and it also dries pretty hard. So this is sort of the lamination glue of Type Bond, but you could use this for this type of application. This is not a heavy, strong bend, so I'm not worried about it changing shape. But if you have the Unibond 1, which is actually ideal for this, it's good because it dries hard, gives you nice open time, meaning you have time to work with it, and get it glued up. So I'm just going to put some in my handy dandy tray. I've got the cheapest plastic bag you can have. I think it's a Walmart.
Those often have holes in them too.
I tried to. They do.
They're so well loved.
I know. Right?
Recycled.
They're like your favorite socks. All right, so let's get some glue on here.
Got some questions about where to find the wacky wood, and maybe these are the same thing, the wacky wood and the bendable ply.
Yeah. That's a plywood dealer if you have one near you where you can get plywoods. Do you have anything like that? If so, that's where you want to go. I'm just going to do this up on here. Fortunately, like around here, I go to this place called Goodfellows. They're Goodfellows there. And
they're actually from a Canadian company, right?
they're in Canada, and then they have 2 locations here too. But they're pretty easy to deal with. They have flooring, mostly plywood and flooring. So, and some hardwood, but not really their specialty. All right, so that's good for the first one.
Chime in on the chat if you know where in your area you get that kind of stuff and where you are, so if people are watching.
You know, the downside of the plastic bag method is, maybe it's just this cheap bag, but it doesn't, you want to, it like raises up. It's a little bit annoying.
Oh, I think that a regular trash bag is better.
Yeah, probably heavier weight.
Yeah, that's what you used the other time.
Yeah, I didn't want
Seemed to be
I was doing so little, I was
more
like,
successful.
I'm not going to use a fine trash bag. All right, now I'm getting
Worth
this.
it, honey. You're worth
I've,
a nice trash bag.
you say the nicest things. I'm worth a nice trash bag. You guys hear that?
I don't know why I have to tell you that.
I'm gonna take a little glue. If you get too much glue on there, you can just take a little off with one of these rollers is great, and then you can go back over and it'll actually lift the glue back to the roller. All right.
Yeah, we're in
gotta
New
keep
Hampshire,
moving.
so that recommendation of Goodfellows is in New Hampshire area.
Yeah, kind of
Manchester.
central New Hampshire. And anyway, yeah.
Oh,
So
the bending ply, is another question. Where would you get that? Same thing?
the Italian bending ply, that's harder to find. I actually asked Goose Bay about it, and I said, I haven't seen that around. I used to get it in somewhat bulk for $13 a sheet. Anyway, I talked to Carl over at Goose Bay, and he kindly got a pack in for me and David Lamb. Both bought a bunch of sheets when, but now it was around $30 a sheet. Imagine that. Things get more expensive. But anyway, you might just ask if you have a place that carries lumber. Usually they have access to plywood dealers too, and if you need some, but you know, I think most of the places like Highland Hardwoods, that's another lumber dealer near us. It's they also had bending ply of different types, but the Italian is a little more rare. Goodfellows didn't even have it last time, and they used to always have it. So,
Tom, what about that roller?
oh,
Like that's been around this.
I'm using a
long
foam.
time.
I just had a 9-inch foam one that I cut on the bandsaw down to like 3 inches because I knew I'm working on a 3-inch.
Great idea.
So you can just cut them shorter like that. Usually I'm using a 3/8-inch nap, like a nice quality paint roller because it holds more glue. But with a small job like this really lays it down nice and evenly, little better than the thicker roller. But you can use a lot of things, but since it's a small job, This will do fine.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Jeremy said use Ziploc bags, and then you can zip up what you have left if you're going to use it.
Oh, clever.
Very smart.
Haven't heard that one. I'm not worth a Ziploc bag, am I?
You're worthy of many Ziplocs.
I don't know. Sometimes those Ziplocs are hard to come by. You don't like parting with
They
your
are
Ziplocs.
significantly more precious, but so are you.
Am I worth a Ziploc?
Yep,
Thank you.
always.
All right, so
I do love my bags,
2 confessions.
but not
On
more than you. honey.
Shop nightlife. In the shop. Being in the shop, it's the truth serum of
Anyone
life.
who knows me is well aware of that already.
Everything is honest in the shop.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. I'm getting glue. Oh, great. I got glue on the front of my finished piece. Now I'm going to have to get some water. I'm going to have to excuse myself for a second because now I went and did it.
How do I lovely? Let me count my Ziplocs. Yes.
Yeah. Some people, some ladies like flowers.
know,
Some
you
ladies like
understand.
bags.
So Dan's
gonna-
asking, would the rubber contact cement type glues sometimes used for veneers be good for a lamination like that?
I wouldn't use the contact cement. It's nasty stuff, right? Is that what someone asked? I just don't. I used it a couple times early on, but it costs more. It's nasty to work with, and it grabs right when it's there. This has like, this is going to move. It has nice working time. I'm sure if you had to use it, you could, but it's probably one of my least favorite glues for.
Some people like that it grabs immediately.
Oh yeah, for like lamination. Well, for laminated countertops, it's ideal. You know,
Yeah.
I've done that. I love that aspect. But
Tom Martin's asking for the call, is it using solid wood or plywood? Is it solid wood or plywood?
it's made out of the core. I cut these MDF ribs at that curve and then surfaced them with. I think I got like 4 layers of 1/8 inch masonite to take the curve, and that's glued kind of on the ribs, almost like floor joists, you know, on a floor spaced out, and then you have the 1/8 inch masonite is almost like the flooring. All right, so that's good. Now I can take it over to the form. Let's go on the form. Now when I position it on the form, I drew a parallel line there so I could get it roughly parallel. I wouldn't want to have it like this because then it would actually have a curved twist in it. So we want to get it aligned parallel with the side. And this is a true arc, so there's no real worry about the center. I'm just going to eyeball it into the center here. And I could put a piece of tape down here. This might help. All right, so there it is, right along the line. I'm going to take this down. Normally I would have this already down by the bag, but I wanted you to see it. So I'm going to take it down to the press. Okay, so some of you have seen this vacuum press from my friend in Maine, Vacuum Pressing Systems, Daryl Keel. Some of you might know him. They have awesome everything you could want. And I'm spoiled. I got this zipper bag, so it opens on 3 sides, so you can flap it back, and you just zip it up. Now this is the first time I've had this form in here, so it's taken up a lot of real estate, you know, in height. I want to make sure I'm staying pretty true to that line. It looks pretty good. Everything looks good. So I'm going to turn it on and just sort of position the bag, pull up some of the slack on the side of the form when it pulls the vacuum, it's going to pull it down nicely. You may notice this form's pretty wide. I have done it with wider pieces and resawn it after, or you could do it with several at once and just put them all next to each other. Okay, here it goes.
So Tom, while you're vacuuming, Martin's curious if you could use the straps to go around the form instead of the vacuum bag. Advantages,
I'll talk about that in a second.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's a good question. Thank you for asking. It's a lot of air to pull because it was puffed up. Okay. Helps when you have the bag zipped all the way. Okay, there it is.
So exciting.
Okay. That's not moving now. And that's really strongly down, but that's pretty soft of an arc. So it's fine for a vacuum press, but you notice that you have to build this form and it takes up a lot of space in the form. So you can only do so strong of a curve on one of those forms. Technically, I could have made my form narrower and clamped it or done an inner and outer form. There's lots of ways to do it. So this is the lamination type, a much stronger curve. This is the lamination for the demi-lune table in curly maple. So this is a much stronger curve. Now, I couldn't put this bag in the form vertically because you can imagine how the bag would be. It'd be hard to direct the pressure right here. So this form is made either for an exterior form, or in this case, we used ratcheting, like trucking straps on here, 2-inch wide straps, 2 of them, and just ratcheted these layers to it, and it just pulls it right in beautifully tight around the form. So that's the way you go there. So a lot of it has to do with how dynamic the curve is that you're working with. There's even another style where the bag is outside the form. I haven't done one of those with you yet, but I have one of those, and I have done that where you build a form, you put all the laminations in the bag, and then you start pulling the vacuum, and then you bend the thing around the form. So you can do like loop-de-loops and twisty things, and you may have seen some very wildly organic laminated pieces of work that have been sculpted in on Instagram and other places. That's most commonly the technique, to use an outside the bag, thinner veneers. The glue it gets very pliable and will go any which way, but it's outside the form. So hope that helps to answer the question. Let me get this glue out of here really quick. So normally you could cover the glue and use it the next day, but I'm not going to be doing this tomorrow, so just gonna
So Tom,
get it out of
David's
here.
asking, other than needing a wide piece of wood, are there disadvantages to cutting the piece from solid wood?
What? Oh yeah, well, for a stronger bend like that, when you get out to the outer side, you start seeing much more of the end grain. So that's a stronger curve. You'd need a lot of wood, you're right. But sometimes you can resaw, if it's a softer curve, we've talked about that in making drawer fronts. Like sometimes if you have a short drawer, like we showed sawing it in solid, but then laminating or bricklaying. There's so many ways. But with this curve, it's just too strong. I mean, look at it. That's probably 5 inches of curve nearly. So that's, oh, sorry, 4. So yeah, you could get 1 out of a 4-inch thick plank, like if you sawed it that way. Or you could go across and saw a bunch of them in sequence. But you're gonna see the end grain, you see all down here, it's gonna be really dark and a lot less strength because you have this shorter grain as you take the bend. So let me try this little thing that I saw. I think you told me about this too, right? This is how.
Yeah, that's the second.
This is the second stage. You get to take it out and all you glue is right there. And then, I hope I don't mess this up. If you cut a little hole, you can, like a cake decorator, you can pipe it back into your container.
Tom, did you use vacuum bags with pug? Was that a thing?
No, actually, trying to think, how did we do that? No, we actually bricklayed. We did it the old-fashioned way. That chest of drawers that I showed you in that picture, the curves were built up the traditional way, and I'm almost certain that's what he did. I don't think vacuum presses, well, they were just probably coming out at that time. You know, veneer presses were always these big mechanical heavy screw things with this big plate that would jam down. And anyway, all right, so I hope you like this little Heloise tip.
The question came up, how old were you in that picture? You were 30 years old, I think, 30, 31. Right?
Yeah.
It's a long time ago. Almost.
Not that long, it feels like yesterday.
Maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was like 20 years ago. All right, so I'm gonna squeeze this down, get rid of some of the air. I noticed the one thing about this, it didn't keep as long. So I think if it gets warm, it got kind of moldy in there. So I think I'm gonna try to keep less air in there. All right, so there we go. Now, I'm not gonna get into the whole rest of it, but let's get rid of this table. Get some water on this.
Tom, how were the Newport block fronts made? Were they laminated? Tim's asking.
They were sawn. They were sawn out of solid. I saw one right up close. And they were, yeah. But so they were sawn out of a thick piece to get the block front and the drawer front. And then the shells were glued on the convex on the sides were applied. But yeah, that's a wild piece of work. That is my hope to one day make that piece with you all. But that'll be a big chunk of time.
You've made one before, but
yeah, I have
the course out of it.
I have the precise patterns because I spent 3.5 hours in the Metropolitan Museum of Art measuring, tracing, everything. I mean, what a fun treat that was. All right, well, I'm not going to go into it all, but to cut these to length, you end up using something like this. The same kind of method we used in the bow front class, where I had a long piece about the length that I wanted my drawer, or in this case, it would be the length you wanted the front rail, the bow rail. It's going to be the exact same length as the back rail, shoulder to shoulder, right? So then I figured out the arc it had when it got to that point. So it's going to be steeper than that. Like if you held this on the table, you could figure out what that angle is. And then I just held it up and tipped my saw blade and trimmed that angle on each end. So now you'd have a perfect seat for this to sit on at the length you want, shoulder to shoulder. This is cut to the same length, shoulder to shoulder there. And then you just, it becomes like a cradle to make the cross cut. So you can see it better. I don't have the one that's long like that, but I have this one that holds this drawer. It's the same principle. So it goes up against the stop, and you cut, cross cut on your cross cut sled one side, then you just turn it around. And again, now you're putting the nice side against the fence, and you're cross cutting this side. So it's holding it in plane with your cross cut sled, and you're getting, with the blade at 90 degrees, you're getting the exact kind of 90-degree shoulder to the back line, basically. So then you have a piece that looks like this, and it's all trimmed to the correct angle. And here I just ran a floating tenon or a slot or mortise on each side. So we run a mortise perpendicular to the face of that piece. And you can do that by setting up, like, usually I'll do that with, say if this were a router table here, and this bit is set down at the height we want, right? This is the spinning. This would be the table, and this is spinning, and I would adjust the height to where I wanted it. And then I'd put some type of adjustable height table out here that was in plane with my router table. So it's holding it in plane. And then you just gently come in and then move it side to side. You gotta enter slowly there, but it's very controllable if you go easy. And then you get the full, this is a 1/4 inch wing cutter.
Simulation of a variety.
Yeah, and then you turn it around and you do the same thing, you know, if this were a router table. So you can see that's how I went about getting that. Then I just glued in some homemade 1/4 inch football splines and here's one that's glued in.
The course takes this very slowly, step by step.
Well, we don't have a course with this.
Oh, but on the demi-loon, it's similar?
No, the demi-loon is the lamination,
Over
is
there?
the full elliptical lamination. We've never done a course with this.
I watched a lot of this.
I felt like maybe we should record this as a course, but it's so similar to the other shaker end tables and everything. If there's enough clamor, I'll do it, but I don't know. Well, so the first thing I would do when gluing this up is I would take 2 ends. Now, here's 2 legs that have not been finished. I have the angle ripped on the front, but then this still needs to be tapered. I have it drawn on there. And in this case, you could set up a jig or just bandsaw to the taper and then do that in both directions. And this one's not done yet, and this is the back leg, which is not either. So let's put it together even so, and just get a look at how this goes together. So the ends are all joined. That's an end. Here's the other end, and now this was already tapered, okay? So you can see how the legs look when tapered in that back leg. And now, I just put them face up like this. And then, it's like gluing up any table. You're gonna bring your back rail. Did I fit that one yet? Oh, that's not fitted. I gotta cut a quick miter. I forgot to miter the inside corner there. So this hasn't been finished all the way, but there it is. And then the front, here it goes into the slot. And that you just align flush. This gets ripped to 3 inches, the same as the front and back. And then the whole thing. Oh, you know what? I don't think I mitered that one either. That's all right. I'm not going to worry about it right now. You'll be able to see it close enough. We'll get the back in.
Tom, at some point, Larry asked this question. It was right after you were talking about the Newport blocks,
Yeah.
block fronts. What about cutting saw kerfs on the back side of the wood to bend it?
Oh, that's another method. Not one I've been really fond of in woodworking, but you can do that too. I mean, and then you're going to laminate on the outside. That's absolutely another way. It's almost like making your own wacky wood, but with a different principle. You're making all these cuts. And so, yeah, you can do that. I've seen it done very successfully, but you're going to skin it with some solid laminations as well. So it's either way. I mean, that's a lot of saw cuts into regular hardwood. If you have access to wacky wood, that's the cheapest, easiest, fastest way to go. So I didn't trim this one, but you can see on this end how nicely this comes together. You end up with your bow front coming in, and that shoulder ends up being just right because you're cutting your slot 90 degrees to each surface. So that simplifies that whole thing. And that tenon could have been a domino, certainly. You could dowel it, but I prefer, yeah, I probably would have used the domino because I have one now, but I used to always do just 1/4-inch slot cutter. It's a nice, strong, pretty strong tenon. You can always put a glue block in the back of that after, but this would all get places to attach your screws. So you can see these little pocket holes here. And you would end up with a table similar to this. This is taking a little bit of a beating, but that's the natural color of this cherry over time. It darkened really red, and isn't that a beautiful
Right out
color?
of our kitchen.
No, this was
Oh,
this
no?
was from out here in the break room.
Okay. Well, we have
Yeah.
one just like it.
Yeah, we do. From another class.
So if people have come for classes, they've seen that. Or
Yeah,
Epic
exactly. All right, so
Baked goods off of that table.
here comes the surprise, the raffle. So what I'm gonna do is finish tapering these legs. This is actually the very same table. I'm gonna finish tapering them. All the joinery is there. The joinery will be fitted. You've got the front legs and the back legs. These will be nicely tapered. There'll still be some sanding and whatnot to do. The joinery will be done. The tenons will be fitted and all around and numbered. And then you'll have your back rail, and then you'll have your front rail, which will just have the tenons glued in. So this is the same veneer. Everything's the same. So this will be all prepped and ready basically.
Like a Lego toy.
Yeah. I will actually do this, a good piece of this for you. I'll have it, and but you'll have to finish it and detail it, glue it up, sand it. You know, there's
Put a
little
top on.
things. Yeah. Oh, and you have to provide the top. So, but we are going to bundle this up and ship it at our cost. So free to you. We are going to ship it to you, the winner, and you will just have to put a top on it. And I'll trace the top on a piece of paper and stick it in the box so you'll know just how to do it. If you've been in the neighborhood and done any of those other classes, well, if you're in the neighborhood, you have access to the hall table. I'll mark out the pocket holes on these and everything. If there's anything that needs to be done, you're just gonna do it in the same way. So you will have yourself a bow front table base nearly done, nearly ready for assembly. But you have, in order to enter, what do they have to do, Vanna?
So they're seeing it on the screen right now. You need to go to epicwoodworking.com/entry and add your name and email and your state. That's all we ask for.
So this will also put you on the mailing list, but we don't bug you. But we'll need their address if they
Well,
win,
whoever
right?
wins.
Whoever wins.
We're going to give this a week so that people who can't watch live
Yeah.
can still participate.
Yeah.
And then we'll announce the winner next Thursday night. We're going to come on for a out of the normal schedule.
Yeah, it'll be a short one.
Relatively brief.
We'll have the drawing. I'll show you the actual finished parts that someone's going to win, and then we'll have the big drawing, and someone is going to have a bow front end table sans top.
So tell your friends, share the news. Of course, if you do that, it makes it more likely you won't get it. But please.
Don't tell your friends. No, please tell your friends. No, but
And even if you're on our mailing list, you can still enter. Doesn't matter. Okay.
that's right. All right. Well, that was a little walk down the straight line is a missed opportunity road. But we did get into curves a little, talked about laminations. There's so many ways to add laminations to add interesting curves and dynamics to your work. So if you've never tried it, go for it. Give yourself a little challenge. If you want guidance in some of the courses we have, we do some laminated methods. And, you know, if you're in the neighborhood, you can check out the bow front end table class for another lamination technique. The newest class, the laminated demi-loon. And of course, we'll be having more. I probably have others too, but that'll do for now. Thank you so much for hanging out with us again. We've thoroughly enjoyed it. And on behalf of the camera lady and myself, we look forward to seeing you next time right back here
So much.
on Shop Night Live.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. So fun to be together. Take care.